Okay everybody, this is Dan Will. I'm making a basic install video with basic wiring and installation of the brackets. So I've already got my car trim home Android PX6 installed. This is a 2017 Tacoma TRD off-road. So anything from a 2016 to a 19 will be similar installation. My OEM deck was the JBL system. Previously to this Android one, I had a Pioneer double din stereo in here. That's since been removed and replaced by this Android. I've been getting a lot of questions about how to wire it, and my steering wheel controls don't work. Basically steering wheel controls is the issue, and some backup camera stuff. So let's kind of dig into this. I'm gonna pull the surround off first if you guys haven't done it. Some guys will use little tools and try to pry in here. If you grab on the ends here and you start pulling slowly, it'll pop right off. So you could take this piece out, set it to the side. So next we have 4 10mm screws that hold the OEM stereo in place. Mine's already been removed. So I use a Milwaukee drill with a 10mm on it. I'm gonna take the screws out. I hold them so they don't drop inside. Some of you guys may want to pull your battery. I have not had any issues doing it this way. Probably if you're just removing the factory radio and you don't have this Android one already installed, it might be a better procedure to go ahead and disconnect your battery terminals. So I've got those removed now. I've been doing is laying a towel across the shifter and some part of the dash here so I can take this guy and pull it out. I'm gonna turn it off. Okay, so more than anything in this video, I wanted to show everyone the basic setup of mounting the brackets and the basic wiring. So this is my stock bracket. It comes with these holes here, this hole here, this hole here. There's 2 raised nubs. The raised part points in towards the stereo. What I've done is when I had these brackets removed, I took my Dremel tool and I ground them flat. So you're gonna grind these 2 guys flat. So right underneath here is 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I did is I measured the distance in the holes from the one that's under here to the one that's right here. I marked it on this bracket. I drilled myself a 1/4 inch hole. 1/4 inch hole is perfect size. It allows you to loosen this bracket and move it around. But what's really nice too is it doesn't make it to where you're way out of adjustment. This gives you the perfect adjustment. So those of you that are getting these brackets in the box that start up here and kind of flow here and putting one over the other, I wouldn't mess with that at all. I'd use your OEM bracket, measure your distance, drill this hole 1/4 inch, knock these down, and you're good to go. Okay, once you have your brackets installed, you're gonna find your wiring harness. So mine is the JBL unit, or was the JBL unit. Okay, so starting here, this is your main harness from the deck to your OEM harnesses. Okay, you have this, and then you're gonna have these main 1, 2, 3. This guy would normally plug into here, but since I'm running aftermarket amps, I don't have it plugged in. If you do plug it in and you have aftermarket amps, it won't hurt anything, but I left it unplugged. Okay, this harness does have other harnesses on it that aren't attached to anything, and that's fine. And the recommendation has been to not go through, cut these zip ties and rewire everything. I don't think it would hurt anything, but I have not tried it, and that's what the manufacturer has recommended. The next thing up is on this main harness, you're gonna have, so this is one of the white harnesses. It has no writing on it, but it's gonna have the, I believe it's the male end, and it says camera. Okay, so you want to mark this one somehow, kind of set it out of your way, and that will be the one that you're going to use to connect your OEM camera to this deck. Okay, so the next thing is, there's been a lot of talk about having to make sure that you have a plug in every one of these spots. Okay, that's not true for this PX6 for the Tacoma. Okay, so let me explain what I'm saying by that. This big plug here has a lot of the RCA ins and outs for video. If you're not going to use any of that, does not need to be plugged in. Okay, so you could skip that video. So that's this guy. The next one over, this is one of the RCAs, I believe. Let's see here. Yeah, this is one of the RCAs. So it goes from here to here. This is the single RCA is the one I'm using for my CarPlay dongle. Okay, after you get, you know, you've got your antenna plugged in with your adapter. You've got your little Wi-Fi antenna, and anything that fits this antenna. If you want to get a longer one, I've seen that recommended. I don't think it's a big issue, but if you've got one laying around, if you're a techie guy, you might want to throw it in there. Okay, and this is the adapter that plugs into the OEM wiring that comes from up here in the left. This is your OEM GPS antenna wiring. So if you want to retain that wiring, you could buy this little adapter. I'll add a picture and a place where these can be purchased. Okay, and then back to your wire harness. So you have to have the main one plugged in. You have to have the RCAs if you're using an aftermarket amp, and at least one USB if you intend on using the dongle. And I know this dongle works for the Apple CarPlay, and I believe it also is necessary for the Android Auto. I don't have an Android phone, so I can't really help you with that. But the biggest issue I'm seeing is right here. So there's an adapter that comes separately in the box with this radio, and one end of it has this 90-degree on it, and the other end of it has a straight plug here. Okay, so that's going to have this 90 on it, that straight white plug, and it also has this microphone, female microphone jack. So really make sure that even if you're not going to use an external microphone like I'm not, that this harness gets plugged in. Okay, and you're going to leave the 90-degree end of it sticking away from your stereo. So you're going to have the straight end plugged in, the 90-degree end is over here. Okay, and this is the big thing, these two white wires here. If these wires are not plugged in, your steering wheel controls will not work. It's not going to work. So that being said, I've seen these two white wires attached on this harness like it is on mine, and I've also seen them coming off of the canbus adapter here. And the problem I've seen is the wires on here that come off the canbus adapter will plug into this. So I want to highlight this again. Let me go through one more time. You do not plug anything from the CAN bus back into the deck. If you see two little white wires with the connector, do not plug that in. This adapter here with this is all part of it here. So this plug here with the 90, the straight connector, and your female external microphone connection, that's the adapter that plugs into these two wires. That's the biggest thing. I know when I was looking into this deck, I couldn't get a straight answer if this deck had front, rear, and subwoofer RCA line out, and it does. So for those of you that are contemplating this deck and you're like, oh man, I don't want to use line output converters, it's got the RCAs, they work. It also has a single subwoofer out, and I tried both. I tried using it plugged into the rear with my my dual RCAs here, and I also bought a splitter that's one male to two females so I can hook it up, and I ended up going with the splitter so that I could use the subwoofer control that's built into the amplifier app in this radio. But basically, more than anything, I just wanted to walk you guys through what to plug in, and number one, this white cable has to be there for your steering wheel controls to work. So I'm gonna throw this thing back in, and we can show you that real quick. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm on 3GT and Car Trim Homes, Forerunner, Android Facebook group. Let's go ahead and put this guy back in. So I carefully grab all these harnesses, and I know people have talked about cleaning all these wires up. When I first started installing stereos, I really cleaned everything up. I zip tied everything. I made everything as straight as can be. Well, over the years, I've stopped doing that. I found that if I just carefully tuck everything back in the dash, it makes it easier to get in and out, and it hasn't affected any sound quality or power or anything like that. So I don't go through that all anymore. It's up to you guys if you want to do that or not, but I think it's much easier to put it back in like this, to be able to fit everything you need. Most of the mess you see here is because these harnesses are made for multiple applications. So if they weren't, you'd have quite a bit less wiring that's kind of floating around. All right, so I'm gonna push this guy back in carefully, and I've heard the recommendation also to keep your antenna wire or antenna harness away from everything else. So I've been trying to do that. There's more than enough room behind these stereos to be able to fit all your wiring. So see right there, there's no forcing, no shoving, no getting crazy. I didn't have to do anything crazy. Basically just lay everything down, try to keep the antenna wire off to the side. So if you're putting this back in for the first time, you've got your new brackets on, your new Android stereo. You're gonna put your screws back in. Make sure your pins line up with your holes in your brackets here, and there's one on the other side, actually two on the other side, top and bottom. Okay, so I usually catty corner the screws. Doesn't make that big of a difference, but I tell you, one of these is really nice. Any form of any kind of tool like this you could do to throw these back in, especially when you're still in the adjusting phase. I've already adjusted mine. I've pulled this thing in and out multiple times to make adjustments. I'm pretty anal when it comes to the way it lines up with the dash. So now I've got these in. I know mine lines up already, so I'm just snugging them up. I ran one of the other USBs into my glove box in case I need to, I don't know if there'll be any future updates we'll need, but that's it. So I carefully stick this guy back on. I line up my wire, and I've been trying to start kind of at the bottom of this guy because it seems like that's the hardest part to get to fit flush with the stereo. Either way, it's not that big of a deal, but I line it up. I push this thing back in till it clicks. So now I can, if I need to, I can push this cable in, but I kind of leave it like this. I run the Tacoma app, the car launcher. I've been using it for a few days. I've only had this thing installed for a little over a week, but that's the gist of it. So the only other thing I want to point out is if you get everything hooked up, all your wires are on, you have that little adapter hooked up the way that I showed you. Okay, so you get your radio in, it's gonna have your regular Android screen. I'm gonna go to settings here. Oh, wrong settings. Oh, apps. Yours is gonna look a little different. But okay, you got all your wires done. You're still pushing the steering wheel buttons and it's not doing this. You're not getting a volume or anything. Okay, then you're gonna wanna go to settings. You're gonna wanna go to car, And you're gonna go down here to factory settings. Okay, this is for the PX6. It's a little bit different on the T9. I can't talk for the T9 right this second because I don't have one on me, and I can't show you or really know where the settings are at. But this is the PX6 for the Tacoma. Factory settings. It's 126. Okay. Okay, so this is, I'm showing you in case your steering wheel controls are still not working. Okay, you're gonna go, all you need to do is go to canbus here, and you want it set up exactly like this for these Tacomas. So manufacturer's all 08, but I'll let you get a picture of that. This is how you want it set up for Tacomas. So I've seen one earlier today where it said canbus, it said no. So you're gonna click on no, and you're gonna put this 08 Toyota Camry, but they're all numbered, so it's gonna be 08, and then you're gonna hit type, and you want this one Prado KLD8. So you're gonna hit apply, and then you're gonna hit exit. Okay, yours is gonna go through a thing where it's gonna restart the deck, and it's gonna come back up. I already have those settings, that's why mine didn't restart. So that's the gist of it. I wouldn't go messing around too much in those factory settings until you familiarize yourself with the radio. But at least when you do that, when you change those settings, you could test your steering wheel buttons. You should be getting volume going across the screen, and it's gonna, the same box is gonna be on the OEM, on your OEM Android system. It's gonna show the same box. Okay, after you've done that also, it is gonna give you this control app. It's gonna look a little bit different. You're gonna have bigger boxes with a circle in it, but it's gonna say the same thing. It's gonna say control, and it's also gonna give you this vehicle app. So in this vehicle app, it's gonna have fuel info and tire info. That's gonna be in that control app. So the one you guys mostly are gonna care about is this one, the control app. And this is where all your OEM radio settings that controlled your button locks, your how long your lights stay on your car, all of them are now in here. So you don't have to worry about losing any of your settings. So it's all right here in this app. So I'm gonna go ahead and end with that. I didn't mean this video to be that long, but I really wanted to stress how to remove the dash. I wanted to stress how to attach your OEM brackets to this deck. Don't use the little plates that come with the stereo in the box. Use your OEM ones, measure them, mark them, drill them, and most of all, the biggest point is hooking up that harness that has the 2 white wires and the female microphone jack in it. All right, thank you.